Okay, guys, show us what you got.
Tom, I'm wondering what no risk it, no biscuit means to you, and when was the first time you heard that? I assume it was with New England. When was the first time you heard that? What'd you think of that saying?
I heard of it in a press conference, and I've heard it quite a few times this year, and that's referencing BA's approach.
I know one of your buds, Tyrann Mathieu, is nicknamed the Honey Badger for how he plays on the field. But what do you think your spirit animal nickname is?
Man, spirit animal nickname. I would like to be like a wolf. I feel like a wolf, kind of running around with my pack and being able to be a leader and someone that continues to attack and continues to lead as much as possible.
So is that the plan, that the Texans hope that they can put the trade request genie back in the bottle and go to battle with DeShaun Watson? Is that the plan in Houston?
Yeah, I would say that is the plan. They have, as far as I can tell, yet to have substantial conversations, if any conversations, with DeShaun Watson.
I suspect, and again, he doesn't want people reading his mind or interpreting the messages he's sending to Gutekunst and Mark Murphy, the CEO of the team. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I want to know what's the deal with Jordan Love.
While the official Super Bowl events will be as well managed as they can to limit transmission of the virus, we can expect Tampa Bay to be a lot more crowded than we're used to, with people from all over the world. So it's best to avoid bars or going out to eat.
So it's that petri dish of congestion, of time together, and of people coughing and sneezing and talking when they're proximate to each other that creates the ideal circumstances for community spread.
So then what is your spirit animal? Come on, if you've ever been to the National Football League, if you've ever been to the Super Bowl, you know that when it comes to the week before the game, what you do is you ask the most ridiculous questions, or at least there's somebody always out there asking them of all the players. Why? Because we've run out of things to say. We have nothing left to report by this stage. But it's a little bit different this year, quite frankly, because not everybody is hanging around for days and days on end. Thank goodness for small favors. Hi, once again, everybody. Welcome in. I'm Ed Berliner. Thanks for joining us. The man in the arena welcomes you to Sports Pulse. Time to look at the National Football League, the Super Bowl, the players, the GOATs, and everything else that goes on. And we don't ask, and, well, we might talk about some stupid, foolish questions, only because why not? They're sitting there, so we may as well go ahead and do it, right? I have brought together two great friends to talk about it who know more about the National Football League than I know. I put them both together. They know a lot more than I know. I'm willing to say it. And they didn't even have to pay me to that for saying that. My first guest, he's formerly with ESPN. He is now on Fansided, NFL Spin Zone, full press coverage sports media. The man's everywhere. And also you can reach him at profootballguru.com, proving once again that those of us in the business always have 30 or 40 jobs behind us. Why? It's just because we can't find a place to land eventually in the way things go. Russell Baxter joins us today on Sports Pulse. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Ed. How are you? I can't believe it's Super Bowl 55. My Super Bowl memories was black and white TV at home in Pennsylvania and watching Joe Cap getting the living you-know-what beat out of him by the Kansas City Chiefs.
I didn't realize you were old.
I'm not old. I'm old-er.
Oh, older. Okay. Well, you're not old. You're seasoned. Seasoned.
Yes.
That's
seasoned.
Word,
yes. Yes.
To it, all right.
No, you know what? At 61, I would say I'm brined.
Go with seasoned, man. Veteran.
Okay.
Veteran or seasoned always goes real well.
You got it.
Also joining us today to talk about the National Football League, someone I've known for a very long time in our days covering the Miami Dolphins. He's formerly at Fansided, the Bleacher Report, Yahoo Sports, the Miami Herald, the Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel, where you have read his material. His latest book, and it is a great book that is selling like hotcakes, and it's on Amazon if you want to go out and pick up a copy. Very well reviewed, too. It is called Elway, A Relentless Life. He was relentless, and so is my guest. A pleasure to welcome Jason Cole onto the Sports Pulse today. How you doing, Jason?
I am fantastic, thank you. And yes, I have memories of the Super Bowl from the 70s, but that is only because I am Hindu. and have been reincarnated. I'm not actually that old.
I like that. I like that. So, okay, so here we go. We put guys together who have all been reincarnated. We are not old. We are all, I'm telling you, you guys got to learn. You got to go with seasoned because it works.
Mm-hmm.
Chicks dig scars and they dig seasoned. Trust me on this, okay? Few things I do know. Let's go ahead and get to it because thankfully, by the way, before I start, let me get to this. Jason, what is your spirit animal?
My spirit animal would be a very large dog that likes to sleep a lot.
Perfect. Okay, you have been at my house.
Or like, yeah, a big giant, whatever those big shepherd dog kind of things, especially with what they carry the rum underneath by the neck or something like that.
Oh, that's a Saint Bernard.
The Saint Bernard, yeah, I'd be a Saint Bernard, big slobbering mess that just likes to sleep all day. That's me.
But at least because of the rum, that's good. Mr. Baxter, seeing as we're on it, your spirit animal?
Oh, woolly mammoth. Stay warm and have the ability to reach for food.
Again, you have seen the dogs at my house. You have watched my beagle. Every day it's all about, Daddy, where's the food? I swear, side story, the dogs eat at 5:30. At 5:29, it is like clockwork. My beagle is in the studio and she just sits there going, dinner? Dinner? They say dogs can't tell time. They're crazy. These dogs know time better than we do.
I believe I'm in touch with that emotion.
See,
So.
there you go. Let's get to it then, because let's finally talk about Super Bowl. And now that we are finally here, amazingly enough, that we've actually gotten to the end of the season. Jason, I'll go ahead and begin with you then. We're in the pregame hype right now, and we've heard everything. We know everything that's going on right now. Everything's been reported.
Mm-hmm.
But in your opinion, where does this game rank in the pregame hype that we're getting into here? Certainly Brady, Mahomes, and all the rest.
Well, it doesn't feel the same because there's not so many reporters on site, and you don't have that sort of same midweek energy that we normally have, the sort of frenzy that's created, where everybody's like, oh, look at media day, which is just a carnival, or look at today's, press conferences, and you have these crowds and people, asking tons of questions, and it looks like there's high energy to it. That's missing this year. That doesn't happen because everything is being done on Zoom calls and everything's being done virtually, and nobody is really in Tampa. I think there might be 5 radio stations. I know that they said they were having a radio row in Tampa, but according to a friend of mine in Tampa who I talked to today, said there are only 5 radio stations at Radio Row. So that whole energy, that whole scene that you get there is not the same. You're only going to have 22,000 people in the stands. So it's like a preseason crowd. So to me, the normal buildup doesn't feel the same. I mean, there's some reporting. There's the usual feature stories that you get this time of the year, but it's not the same sort of wall-to-wall coverage kind of thing that we normally get a feel for.
Which is maybe not a bad thing, depending on sometimes how that wall-to-wall goes. How about you, Russ?
Yep.
Yeah, to me, there's obviously, I'll echo what Jason said as far as the crowd and how the coverage goes. And it's a different kind of year, although in some ways, these are some of the great storylines, okay, which to me, storylines are obviously different than hype. So, we have a team trying to repeat for the first time since 03 and 04. We have the whole Mahomes Brady, the quote unquote GOAT, for those of the people who rank GOATs, against the future GOAT, who are in some people's minds. You have a rematch from the regular season. You have a team playing in its home stadium, ironically, not necessarily in front of their home fans. You have a team maybe on the precipice of doing something great as far as making a run because they have such a young, dynamic quarterback. And, we haven't seen a guy with this kind of arm talent. I know other guys can throw maybe deeper than Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes throws from every direction, every on the run, sidearm. I mean, he's your classic hurler. It's like watching, Aaron Rodgers and Dan Quisenberry at the same time. So, you have all these great storylines, but like Jason said, you don't necessarily have the crowd down there. You don't have all the reporters down there. It's a different kind of field, but it's been a different kind of season. And I guess that's only fitting. But, if this game lives up to what the first game was, which was Kansas City jumping out the way they did and Tyreek Hill spending the whole first quarter in the Tampa Bay end zone, this ought to be fun.
Let's get to a word that you mentioned there, which it used to be that you could throw out the Pete Rose Hall of Fame argument on talk radio, and you could fill hours. The phones would light up. Now it's easier. All you have to do is use the word GOAT in any sport at any time. If you run out of material, throw GOAT up there, and people will be screaming to get to you. But that then brings up the discussion of Mahomes and the greatest of all time talk already, that he is one of the futures. We have people who are taking statistics of Tom Brady in the same few years and saying, look, he's so much better than Brady over the exact same period of time, forgetting, of course, that defenses are different, personnel is different, coaches are different. So seeing as you mentioned it, Russell, I'm going to throw it to you first. I mean, come on, is this kid really deserving of all this future GOAT hype, or is this just something that people need? They got to talk about to fill time.
Fill time. Well, that's funny. GOAT stands for greatest of all time. How do you come with an all time with limited time? Okay, but I mean I'm going to give you a weird analogy. When the Patriots won the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 years, the dynasty word got thrown out. I was not personally a big fan of that because in the middle of that Super Bowl run, they missed the playoffs in 2002. Okay, they were a 3-0 team that lost 7 of their last 13 games, and went 9-7. Dynasty now, 20 years. That's a dynasty. So it's it's become real easy to just kind of slap this label on that and slap this label on this and so on. And I understand the exuberance and so on, but how do you throw out the word GOAT when the guy has barely scratched the surface in terms of a career? I mean, it just.
Well, that's just it. It's all time is what they keep saying. They're throwing out all time.
Show fodder. It makes for easy columns. I'm just
exactly.
And not only that, it's all subjective. Okay, there's not a plaque somewhere or an award given out by the league that says GOAT. All right. I mean, I used to kid if Tom Brady's the GOAT, is Aaron Rodgers goat cheese?
I hope you trademark that because that's a great. You could put that on. You could put that on
just
right away.
Many silly things I've said over the years.
Hey, so. Jason, look. I mean, you've written a book. Your book about Elway is about a GOAT. There's no question about it. He is one of the greatest of all time. So,
sure, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I think Russell's got a great point here. It's people just want to throw it out. It's a useless phrase until the player's career is over, because of all time then says we've got to look at the player's entire body of work.
Look, I agree. I would start with this point. Given my size, I think you can probably deduce that I'm a big fan of cooking shows. So, like I watch Chopped with Ted Allen all the time, and I love Chopped. And one of the things is you're supposed to use these 4 ingredients in Chopped, and if you don't use one of them, you don't necessarily lose, but it hampers you a lot, right? Well, if you're trying to evaluate somebody's career and you don't get to see the last part of it, like you don't get to see like how's this going to go from here? Like, is it going to fall apart? Is he going to get injured? Is he not going to play well? Is he going to all of a sudden lose players who are around him and fall off of the abyss? I mean, I don't think that's going to happen to Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a great player, but until I see the whole thing, give me a little time here. Let me. Could he end up being sort of the inverse of Jim Plunkett, which is Jim Plunkett had this terrible career for the first 9 years, is never going to make the Hall of Fame because of those lost years between New England and San Francisco, when he just is on his back most of the time, but he ends up winning 2 Super Bowls at the end and salvages his career, right? Like Jim Plunkett now is people make the argument, oh, he's won 2 Super Bowls, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't necessarily buy that, even though we're both Stanford grads. But I see that. I mean, I want to buy the argument, but I can't. Right. So that's number one. The other thing is, look, saying somebody's the greatest of all time does not take into account what are you surrounded by, what are the circumstances, what era did you play with, what rules were in place. Playing in the 70s is different than playing in the 80s and playing in the 2020s, right? Playing in the 40s with Sid Luckman, when Sid Luckman was great, all that kind of stuff. So I always look at this way. You can pick out probably the best 8 of all time. And you can throw like Unitas and Montana, Brady, Manning, Elway, Marino, Rodgers. You can come up with 8 or 10 guys.
Yeah, but you'd already get an argument right there because somebody would be screaming that Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. So how can you?
Whatever. Who cares? They didn't watch Marino play. They didn't watch Marino play. I watched Marino play. He's in the top 8. Okay, as a passer, he just is. So put those all together, and okay, let's choose up sides for who wants to have the first pick. I'll take the last pick. I'll take the last guy of that 8. I'm good. I have an argument for the best of that group. I do. If it's Elway's the last guy you take or Marino's last guy, I got a good argument. And I know I can build a team around one of those guys that can win a championship. Even though Marino didn't, I feel very confident that around any of those top 8 guys that you want to talk about, you can throw Otto Graham in there, whoever you want. Okay? I'll take the last guy, and I'll be happy with it.
Doesn't this, though, get to, guys, the fact that, writers, broadcasters, fans, whatever, the word great is just thrown around. It's a casual toss-off word anymore. To me, it's lost all of its meaning because people sometimes will say that, well, he's a great player. No, he might have been great in the moment. She might have been great in the game that she was in. But to say that and see, Jason, I might even take umbrage here, to say Patrick Mahomes is a great player now. Yeah, he's a very good player.
He's a great player right now.
Okay.
Right now, for this period of time, he's a great player. Is he going to be great for 12 to 15 years? That has to play out.
What about that, Russell, the whole great issue?
I have no problem with the word great. I have a bigger problem with the word greatest. And I think that's 2 totally different things, okay? You watch what Patrick Mahomes has done, okay? I'm just throwing out numbers. 7 playoff games, the team scored at least 31 points in 6 of the games. The only team that didn't happen is when he got knocked out in the 3rd quarter, okay? And I know you score with more than offense, okay? I always go back to one of the more incredible statistical thing about the 2001 New England Patriots. They played 3 playoff games. They played the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Rams. Their offense scored 1 touchdown each in the playoffs games. Their defense and special teams scored 1 touchdown. I'm sorry, they scored no touchdowns in snow, 2 at Pittsburgh, and a Ty Law pick 6 in Super Bowl 36. And yet, Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2001. So that's the kind of stuff. This is the ultimate team game when you get to the NFL. Okay? And there's a lot of team games, don't get me wrong. But I like what Jason said. I have no problem with great. But when you put greatest, okay, you're trying to end the conversation, okay? And how many times do you see people either say it or print it? He's the GOAT. No argument. What do you mean there's no argument? Who the hell decided you weren't going to have
There's
an argument?
always an argument. That's why, come on.
There isn't always an argument. And by the way, Jason, I'll piggyback off the chop. No one wins if they don't show up for the dessert round, okay?
Right. You got to show up for dessert. Oh, you have to be great in dessert. You can't be just okay in dessert.
Right. No one gets the Oscar at intermission of a great movie, okay? you got to close the deal. And who knows what's going to happen to Patrick Mahomes. And you know what's funny? If you really think about Tom Brady's career, early when they were winning those Super Bowls 3 times in 4 years, he was more a caretaker than anything else. I know he was Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 36. I've always made the argument that if Adam Vinatieri kicked one more field goal, he would have been the Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 36. By the way, go back and look at Mike Rabel's game in Super Bowl 38. Okay? He caught a touchdown pass. He also had a bunch of tackles, sacks, and forced fumbles. Okay? I'm not trying to dismiss Tom Brady. He changed his career. Okay? In 2007, when they brought in Randy Moss and they started to trust him more with the offense, that's when he started putting up those huge numbers.
Okay, we have a hand up from Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, it's to you.
I do have, yeah. I'm going to piggyback on this point. Ty Law should have been the MVP of that first Super Bowl.
Okay. Yes, agreed.
I mean, look, the way that they played the Rams receivers the entire game, you want to talk about spirit animals for a team. Ty Law was the spirit animal for that game for the entire defense, because he came in that week and they said, well, we want to play this certain defense. And Ty Law said, we ain't backing down from anybody. We're playing in your face all game long. And he's the one who basically said to Romeo Crennel and to Belichick, no, we're going to get up here and we're going to go toe-to-toe with these guys and wrestle with them all game and change the way that the Rams play offense. And he returns the interception. He sets the tone for that entire game. And look, Brady played his role very, very well. No complaints about what Brady did. But if you don't have Ty Law set the tone for that game and make that big play and get Otis Smith and Terrell Buckley to get up in the face of guys like Ricky Prohl and Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce and Oz Akeem, like take away the whole timing of that offense, the Rams probably still win that game somehow, some way. And so to me, that game was Ty Law's, and it was just affected by a cool drive at the end, which was, again, nothing to complain about Brady. He did his part.
But isn't that natural, though, when it comes to big games like this? Because when everybody is looking for an MVP, what do? They look to the quarterback. They look to the guy who leads the teams. Even if, and you're right, there's great defensive plays out there, and we can probably sit here and name 20 of them in title games, but because he or she is the big gun and they're the star, it's easy. Just like the GOAT argument, it's an easy argument to make. You fall back, you got nothing else to do.
I like what Jason said about what the Patriots did to the Rams receivers, which was very reminiscent of another Bill Belichick Super Bowl, and that was Super Bowl 25, when the Giants defensive backs had their ways with the Bills receivers, and did a little punishment on them as well. It's funny, this day and age of offense and numbers and all that stuff, and it's almost like some people want to deny defense its proper place. And all I know is this, and you know me, I'm just a numbers guy and I'm a historical guy and so on, but I'm still trying to figure out why the 12 highest scoring teams in NFL history in points in the season, none of them have a Super Bowl ring.
Because it shows that it takes more than just scoring points to win a Super Bowl, i.e. why they always name the quarterback as the
30
MVP.
times, 54 Super Bowls, 30 quarterbacks.
And it's not always quarterbacks. We've seen it.
Yeah.
But in this game, in this one, everybody's focus is on the quarterbacks here. We got Brady. We got the fact that he looks like he's going to play until he's 127 years old. We have wonderful memes of him looking like he's got a Santa Claus beard and a mustache going around now. And then you've got Mahomes and the coming of age and the GOAT argument here. This is the argument, the topic, if you will, that is coalesced around this Super Bowl. But is it really the one that we should be paying close attention to, with all these players and all these different factions involved in the game?
Well, for me, there's two players that are not going to be playing that I think are very pivotal, and that's Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. And that's the starting tackles for the Kansas City Chiefs. Schwartz been out for a while. Fisher got hurt in the AFC title game. And when you see Shaq Barrett and you see Jason Pierre-Paul and you see Ndamukong Suh, that's a concern. And I know Patrick Mahomes can buy some time, but I also saw him against that front of the 49ers in the Super Bowl last year. I believe he was sacked 4 times. So, that's going to be the chess match. Is Todd Bowles going to play Tyreek Hill and those receivers like he did in the first game, in which Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards receiving in the first quarter in Tampa. So, again, these rematches are very, very fascinating when they play each other during the regular season. By the way, more times than not, the team that won during the regular season did not win the Super Bowl. It's 6 and 7 all time.
So what are we missing then, Jason, on storylines here?
Look, I think that this game comes down to, I really do. And I think Russell makes a good point on the tackles, obviously, and how Shaq Barrett and JPP play. And Vita Vea in the middle was terrific in the AFC Championship game. Coming back, he put a lot of pressure in the middle. So I think that there's a lot there for the pass rush if Tampa's going to win. What I have seen and observed from Kansas City all season is if Patrick Mahomes is dialed in and focused, they're essentially unstoppable. And they play at top of the game. And sometimes in games this season, that's only been for 15 or 20 minutes. Like, when they played the Dolphins and they were, kind of lackluster. And then all of a sudden Mahomes just takes off for 20 minutes from the second to the third quarter, and they put this game away, and then they kind of shut it down again. Or against Atlanta in the final week of the season, or in the second to last game where, okay, we need a touchdown. Let me be brilliant because I can be brilliant. I thought he was brilliant against Buffalo. And if not for the dropped pass early from Tyreek Hill and the muffed punt from Mecole Hardman, that game is just an ugly, ugly affair, right? And it's just a complete and total blowout instead of just, okay, they dominated the game and took off. So to me, is Mahomes so dialed in for this game to say, I want my revenge for that AFC Championship game 2 years ago when Brady hit those 3 straight 3rd and 10s, and I remember that. And I'm going to play start to finish like this instead of, okay, we'll play really, really well for a brief period of time. And even against San Francisco last year, yeah, they were lackluster. Yeah, San Francisco created a lot of problems for them, the 4 sacks, a lot of pressure. But all of a sudden, you hit the 3rd and 15 because San Francisco did not blitz in that situation. They went with the 4-man, rush instead of bringing an extra guy to try and put a little more pressure on him, get to him just a little bit faster, right? And not that you normally blitz on 3rd and 15. It's not optimal. But against this guy is the kind of guy that you think about, maybe I got to blitz him on 3rd and 15. Maybe I got to find a way to get him on the ground if I got a little bit of extra time. And Todd Bowles is really going to have to think about that if they get in a critical situation. Because once that 3rd and 15 hit, it was downhill. It was 3 scores. They were the brilliant Chiefs that just take over a game in a short stretch of time.
Everything you're saying is accurate. So do we then have to conclude that put these quarterbacks together, Patrick Mahomes is the better of the 2 quarterbacks, hands down? Put them up, give them the same team.
Today.
He's the best. Today, right now, yes.
Today, if I have to pick a quarterback, I'm picking Mahomes. And I love Tom Brady. Who doesn't? Who doesn't look at that career and just go, good God, this is I'm seeing one of the greatest athletic careers in the history of all sports. Any sport, anytime you're looking, you go 10 Super Bowls, 6 title.
Yeah, you got to give it to him.
You just sit there and go, this is baffling how great it is. But if I have to pick a one quarterback today, I got to win today. I'm picking Mahomes.
You're nodding your head, Russell.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Tom Brady in these playoffs hasn't necessarily been scintillating, okay? He's played 3 playoff games. He's completed 55% of his passes, okay? In this day and age, you're looking at 60. Threw 3 picks in the NFC title game. I think what Tom Brady has brought to the Bucs this year is, like, we can play bad, but we'll still maybe find a way to win. And it took them a while for them to get in that mode. Now all of a sudden they're riding a 7-game winning streak. But I think that playoff experience from Brady, that savviness, is we can find other ways to get this done. And if you really think about it, that's really been the key to the turnaround of the Kansas City Chiefs. Go back to 2018. Jason brought up that point about losing the AFC title game. Do you remember earlier in the year in Foxborough on a Sunday night Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs put up 40 points in Foxborough and lost 43-40. Okay? That team scored the third most points in the season in NFL history and couldn't get to the Super Bowl. And now they find other ways to win. A more complete complementary team. It took them a while to get used to Spagnuolo's defense. Listen, this is an impressive 9 consecutive wins. You go 25-2 in 27 game span, and one of those losses is when you sat most of your people against the Chargers in Week 17. Like Jason alluded to, they can turn it on at any one time, which defies almost conventional wisdom. You're not supposed to be able to turn it on. You're not supposed to sit your quarterback basically for 3 weeks, like Mahomes did at the end of the season. And then, like he said in the AFC title game, I mean, they were brilliant. I mean, they put up 38 points almost effortlessly.
So what is that? I mean, there's that. We seem to be getting to that point where, at least with the Chiefs, there's that instigator, that snap, something that happens, and it's not just Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's obviously the best quarterback on the field, but what then is that impetus behind that Kansas City offense that clicks in, that dials in at just the right moment? Jason alluded to it, where all of a sudden, bang, you start scoring points. What is that?
Look, I think it's just being challenged. Like, what's that moment where they feel challenged? Is it being down 10 points? Is it being down 24 points? And like, okay, like, let's show you what we really got to do. And it's a really dangerous quality, okay? Because you can get yourself trapped in a game where, like, you let it get a little too far and let it get away a little too much. And so you worry about teams when they begin to play like that they're going to lose control of a game. Kansas City, fortunately, has not, and I think that has to do with Mahomes and his focus, and he can turn it on at those moments. But look, I'm a big fan. If I'm a coach, I'm like, I got to find that thing that snaps them into place a little bit earlier. Gets them to attention a little bit faster. And maybe in this game, it's Brady. Maybe you play those. Maybe you go in on Saturday night and show them the three straight third downs and say, remember, guys, this guy can do this to us. Remember, guys, like, he can't. Now, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. You got to be really careful with how you use that. Maybe you use that early in the week, and then you bring them up on a Saturday night and you get them really jacked. Who knows what Andy Reid does? I know generally Andy is very like, we're going to be even keel. We're going to play our game. We're going to be ready. It's dangerous. It's a dangerous way to do it. I will say this about Brady, and Russell talked about it a little bit, the ability to keep them sort of snapped into place is he's the same guy, whether he throws 3 interceptions or whether he's, throwing 3 touchdowns. Like, there's just a steadiness to him. And that is way different than what they had a year ago with Jameis Winston at this point in time, where, like, he would look bewildered. And he threw a lot of picks, right? I mean, number one, he made a lot of mistakes. And number two, when he made those mistakes, it was like, God, I don't know what happened. Brady's just like, okay, I threw an interception. Go stop him, and we'll be ready the next time. And there's just a different leadership quality between those two human beings. And that's the key to the Bucs making it this year, because of that kind of confidence and that countenance that Brady has.
But does Brady have the team? I don't get the sense. Look, we've all seen Brady play, and I mean, I got a chance to watch him play up close for several seasons in New England. And he's the guy that seems to, when they're down by 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter with 10 minutes to go, you have people going, don't worry about it. Everything's fine. He's got this game under control. It was a personnel issue at that time with Brady and what he knew he had. I don't get the sense that Brady has got, and I know that there have been comebacks this year, I get it, but in a game like this, I don't get the sense that Brady has that level of personnel where no matter how much he wills it to happen, you get the Bucs fall behind, they are not coming back against this team. He can scream and glower all he wants. He doesn't have the personnel.
Russell, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's going to be also depends on the tempo of the game. And it always stands out to me about with Tom Brady and the numbers and so on. And again, this Super Bowl experience, playing in 9 of these, getting ready to play in 10. Think about this for a minute, Ed. Tom Brady has won a Super Bowl when he threw for less than 200 yards. And he lost the Super Bowl when he threw for over 500. Okay? I mean, adaptability, he's seen it all. And he also knows how explosive, and obviously Bruce Arians knows how explosive this Chiefs team can be. Again, with the Tyreek Hill game earlier this year, and that's why balance is going to be important when you got Ronald Jones and you got Leonard Fournette, and it doesn't have to be Tom Brady throwing this and Tom Brady throwing that. And so I remember last time Tom Brady was in the Super Bowl, his team scored 13 points and the wide receiver was the MVP. It wasn't him. But yet Tom Brady won a 6th Super Bowl. Okay? So you're going against the defending Super Bowl champions who is as good as the Bucs are on the 7-game run. I already alluded to the 25-2 in the last 27 games. And the Chiefs play this complementary football style. I don't know if you go weapon to weapon. Certainly Tyreek Hill's the fastest player on the field on either side. Okay, and Travis Kelce, by the way, no tight end's ever been Super Bowl MVP. I'll just throw that out there. Not saying it will happen. Okay, but the kind of hill Travis Kelce has had this year, something to keep in mind as well. It's undermanned, but how many times have we seen Brady or the Patriots undermanned? Okay, it's no accident that he keeps on winding up in this game, and the Patriots kept on winding up in those games. They found different ways. So if you look at the 9 Super Bowl teams that the Patriots had when they were there, they were all different. Okay, I mean, some of them had poor defenses, some of them had great defenses. So that's what's going to make this interesting. Again, it's a rematch from the regular season, and I think the Bucs are pretty aware of what the Chiefs can do, and that's why it's going to take more than. They don't have to. Let's put it this way: the Bucs have a great wide receiving core. There's no question. Godwin and Evans. If Antonio Brown plays, I don't know. The tight end, Brady, I like a lot. Obviously, Gronkowski's there, almost like pick his moments now later in his career. But Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, they bear watching. They really do. I mean, don't forget the Super Bowl last year. Patrick Mahomes was the MVP, but Damian Williams had over 100 yards rushing. He had a breakaway run late in the fourth quarter. He had a touchdown. Receiving in that game as well. So there's going to be a lot of different people, I think, getting the football and Super Bowl in Tampa.
So Jason, is it your belief then, yes or no, that Tom Brady has the personnel in order to turn it on at a moment's notice when they get in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're explosive enough. I mean, again, Godwin's situation, you want to know about Evans. Like, these are the best receivers he's had in a number of years, right, in terms of the outside guys. The tight end situation, not quite the same as when Gronkowski was going, obviously. Brate's okay. To me, I worry about, like, Fournette as a receiver out of the backfield. Like, that's the one thing that the Buccaneers should have done at the trade deadline is go and get James White from New England. He would have been a huge addition, especially on third down, and sort of straightening out that passing game to the running back. Because Fournette, and I know he caught 76 passes in 2019 with Jacksonville, but he's been a horrendously bad receiver working with Tampa this year. It's like his body is just, he looks stiff as a receiver trying to catch the ball from Brady. That's the one really glaring weakness that I see in this Tampa offense, right? And it's one of the things that drives down that completion percentage that Russell alluded to earlier, because he's just not getting a lot of easy catches that way. So, but I do think that overall they have enough to run with the team to a point, if that makes sense. Like, I can say that they can get to the low 30s. If this game gets to the mid 30s or higher, like, I don't think that they have a chance at that point in time. And that's where, like, this game gets out of reach.
I don't know. It seems we've sent Russell to drink already, which is frightening because the game hasn't even started yet. So then, to wrap up before we move on, because I want to hit a couple of other players and things going on here. The obvious question then, Russell, to you first. Who do you like and why?
I think it's close. I think it's the Chiefs. It might even be late, but that doesn't necessarily means the Chiefs have to rally. It's back and forth and so on. I look what they did in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl last year. I look what they've done in the playoffs any number of times now. They're not shaken by being down double digits. Every postseason game last year was double digits. They were down 24-0, obviously, to Houston. I think they're the more balanced overall team. And, again, I think the tackles not being there certainly hurt. But I also have seen Mahomes with his feet, and Mahomes on the run, and Mahomes throwing sidearm, and Mahomes throwing passes from all different directions, underhand, overhand. Take your pick. So I think it's probably a field goal game, but I have to lead Kansas City, but maybe Tampa tacks on a late touchdown.
All right, Jason, do you?
I actually don't think this game is that close. I mean, I think it's one of those ones where it's a 10 to 13 point game and the Chiefs win. But it's never like out of hand. Like it never gets to be 3 touchdowns or anything like that. It might get to 17 points and then Tampa comes back and gets a touchdown and gets it within 10. I think it's one of those games that plays out. But I think it's one where you look and go, the Chiefs after the first quarter and a half a game had control of this game. And took control of it early because Mahomes was really sharp. And then they kind of meander through the rest of the game, kind of just holding control, just enough control of the game. So I thought that I've said from week 1 all the way through, the Chiefs are by far the best team in the NFL this year. I don't think it's close. When they play hard, they actually prove it. When they don't play hard, everybody goes, well, they did this and they did that. This is the time when I think they're going to play really, really hard, and they're going to show that they're the best team. I don't think they're going to be able to get there next year, and that when they play with that kind of attitude. But let's just worry about this week for now.
Yeah, I tend to think you're right. I think you both make good points, and I'm going to make it a threesome on this. I do think Kansas City never really gets in trouble in this game. They might get behind. It's still Brady. But there's no panic on that team, and I do believe they've got more than enough to win this game, which will make a lot of my Kansas City faithful very happy. Now that we've taken care of the big game, I want to get some quick hitters here and get you guys some ideas on some of the players and some of the things that are going on. And the first one that comes to mind right away is Aaron Rodgers, because this is, of course, as it is with any other great quarterback, it always takes on a soap opera-esque sort of style here where he's in, he's out, he doesn't want to go. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he wants management to get involved. Maybe he's running things. Maybe he's not. Okay, Russell, to you first then. The past and the future of Aaron Rodgers. Does he, obviously he's got another season here, but what happens with him in Green Bay now moving forward? Because people think of Aaron Rodgers in great ideals of a championship quarterback. Well, that's not entirely true for Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if you look at the body of work in Green Bay, it's not as if he's blown out 5 or 6 Super Bowls in his career.
No, he hasn't, but I've also watched the Green Bay defense since he's been there. You go back and look at the number of points that the Packers have given up in these games with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. His first playoff game almost epitomizes that. They scored 45 points against the Cardinals and lost 51-45 in overtime. Although I will say it was his fumble and he kicked the ball up in the air and it was returned for a touchdown. Okay. There's a lot of games like that, 31-26 loss. That almost typifies what's happened. I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers isn't without fault and so on. But, for a long time, this team has not supported him with the defense. Okay. The year they scored all those points in 2011, he had the unbelievable year and so on. They were 15-1. It's his future should be set. Okay. I understand they drafted Jordan Love. What of Jordan Love? It's almost impossible to tell right now. And, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, maybe I just sit in the back of that pickup truck a couple more times and not worry about too much.
Well, that's is Rodgers looking at one season?
An interesting offseason for the Packers because I'm going to be curious to see what happens with Aaron Jones.
Knowing with all that they have and all that's going on in Green Bay right now, does Rodgers have 1 season, 2 seasons? I mean, looking at the personnel then that he's got around him, and you're right, because he doesn't seem to have been surrounded by the entire team that he needed to win those 5 or 6 championships. So has he got maybe 1 good season, 2 good seasons? What are we looking at?
I would hope he had more than that. I mean, I'd be mystified as to why they want to part ways with him.
That's the point. Yeah,
honest with you, and throw the ball with this past year than he did in the previous, even last year under Matt LaFleur. It's the best he's probably thrown the football in 3 or 4 years. That flick of the wrist, that pinpoint accuracy. My goodness, 48 touchdowns, 5 picks in the regular season. Okay, listen, Tampa had their number. Aaron Rodgers played 18 games this year and he threw 6 interceptions. Okay, 3 of them came against the Buccaneers. There's got to be something to give Tampa a little credit in that regard.
So is that it, Jason? I mean, he's got time left, but I think the point Russell brings up is good. Why would you even consider getting rid of this guy? I mean, that to me is one of the most amazing things that people in Green Bay saying, well, maybe it is time for Rodgers to split. Really?
Well, do remember that certain coaches tend to overthink things because they think that they have this God complex. Or they do have a God complex. So, look, you can convince yourself of a lot of things if you waste enough time considering it. And so, yeah, I could see where somebody says, okay, Rodgers' problem, we now have to move on to Jordan Love. Really? Did you have to draft Jordan Love in the first place? Couldn't you have gotten a wide receiver for Rodgers? Couldn't you have backed him up with some more help and stuff like that? But as for the totality of his career, unfortunately, as great a thrower as he has been, as much as he has done some amazing things with his arm and the flick of the wrist, he plays quarterback as if he was a shortstop, ranging from the hole to up the middle, being able to make these sort of gymnastic-like throws from either side. I mean, he's an amazing thrower of the football, and I just love watching him throw off foundation, off platform, whatever you want to say. Yeah, he's amazing that way. But you kind of look at the career and you go, you know what? There wasn't enough there. There's enough there for him to be a Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong, but it's like it's sort of like with Favre. For all that greatness, there was one touchdown. There was one Super Bowl victory. The Atlanta Braves, for all that great talent that they assembled in that starting rotation and around those guys, he had one championship. I mean, you just kind of look back and go, is that all there is from that, the entirety of that career? And unfortunately, I think that's how we're going to look back at Aaron Rodgers and evaluate his career and go, as great as he was, it wasn't really what we expected it to be. And that's a little bit sad, but, and that might keep him from being the GOAT, to bring this full circle.
Yeah, I don't think there's a GOAT conversation here. I really don't.
Right. But he's certainly, God, it's one of those things like with Marino. Did you watch him play? Did you just watch what he could do?
And we did. We saw him play every game.
I saw the second half. I didn't even see the first half of it. I saw the second half of Marino's career, and I went, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Aaron Rodgers, oh my God, that was amazing. But he's not in that conversation of the greatest of the great, I guess, and at least that's how it's going to look like 10 or 12 years from now.
As we then
it's funny, Jason said that about Marino and so on. To this day, even though Dan Marino threw more interceptions in 1984 than other guys, like Aaron Rodgers is 48-5, Dan was 48-17 as far as picks. I defy anyone to watch who played quarterback better in one season than Dan Marino did in 1984.
Well, good God, was he awesome?
He went into RFK Stadium week 1. And that was a team that had been in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row and made them look silly. He threw a ball the next week to Mark Clayton on the left side of the end zone, and he just shuffled a little. It would be a throw that would throw your elbow out, and he did it with the flick of the wrist. In 1984, I defy any. Funny, 1984 was the year Eric Dickerson set the NFL record for rushing yards in the season. And again, my argument would be I can't remember anybody who played quarterback better over 16 games.
I have never seen in my life.
Marino, I know Brady threw 50 and Mahomes threw 50 and Peyton Manning threw 55 and Rodgers threw 48 and Manning threw 49 one year. But as far as from head to toe, again, you're right, Jason. A lot of people haven't seen Dan Marino play. He's been gone from the league for more than 20 years now. So
I never saw anybody throw a football as hard with as little effort as I did Marino. The mechanics of his arm were perfect. If God did indeed come down and kiss a quarterback's arm and bless it, it's the Marino arm. Because
well, I'm going to argue Elway wins the arm argument, but not the part where you talk about the efficiency of the mechanics. I will grant you on that part.
Okay.
That I will totally grant you on.
Fair, which is why Elway and Marino both go in that GOAT category. There's no two ways about that at all.
Yeah.
Drew Brees in New Orleans. There is indeed a lot of talk that for Drew, it's over. Should it not be over at this point? Has he gone as far as he can go, Jason?
He should just walk away. I mean, his body's beat up. And look, Sean Payton wants him to leave. Sean Payton is waiting. Look, Sean Payton told Jay Glazer before the final season of the game that this is Drew's last game, because I know how close Jay Glazer and Sean Payton are. Now, Sean hasn't said that publicly because he's waiting for Drew to come to the decision on his own and walk away on his own. But if Drew doesn't make that decision, Sean's going to go to him and say, look, I can't do this another year. And he's gonna look at him and have a heart-to-heart, but he's waiting for Drew to come to the decision on his own to walk away because he doesn't want to embarrass a player who has been so great. And I don't blame Sean Payton for doing that. But he has, Taysom Hill and he has Jameis Winston there for a reason, to make the transition, to allow them to go with a guy, either one of those two guys who can help keep them competitive next year. But I mean, you watch Drew throw at this point in time, and it's just not good enough. And I know his, the broken ribs and everything else, but the arm's just not the same as it used to be.
It's a labor at this point. What do you think, Russ?
Right.
Done?
yeah, I'll tell you that late in that Buccaneers game when it was turnover this and turnover that, it was almost as if it was like a wing and a prayer, and the wing wasn't working. And quickly that game turned into 4 turnovers for the Saints, and he looked like, for lack of a better word, almost a shot fighter. And they have this was 3 years in a row that the Saints bowed out at home in the playoffs. First to the Rams in the controversial NFC title game, and then last year in overtime when Drew had a costly fumble. In that game, it was a team that didn't turn over the ball hardly any at all in 2019. He set a record with 8 turnovers all season, and it didn't work out. And then, of course, this game with the Bucs, a team they had manhandled, about 6 weeks earlier, and couldn't get the job done. And again, turnovers were costly. So, yeah, it almost seems inevitable. I mean, he's been a great story, all the different things he's done and so on. But he certainly looked like he was on his last legs in the fourth quarter against the Bucs. Almost somewhat reminiscent, but not totally, almost of like Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl against the Panthers.
Quick hit, one more quarterback here. I am going to say this out loud. I believe that when the season begins next, the regular season, DeShaun Watson is still in Texas, that he doesn't move anywhere, and that it's all just wonderful playtime. But as far as I'm concerned, you don't let a guy like this get away. Russell?
That's a toughie.
Yeah.
If I had to lean one way or the other, I would agree, but I'm just wondering how much hardball he's going to play. Is he serious about the rumored reports of him sitting out for 2021? Okay, it's not like we haven't seen a player do it. Okay, so it's hard to get a grasp on because that organization right now is so hard to get a grasp on. I know what they're saying and so on, but what if someone does come to the table with a Vito Corleone offer that they can't refuse? Okay, so I'm going to have to plead.
No low contender.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I love when you speak French, Ed. So.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on TV. It's okay.
Yes. Nolo contendere aside, I think Russell hit on it, is how much hardball does DeShaun Watson want to play? And right now, the talk that you're getting in this one sounds like agent speak. Like, I'm going to play hardball, and he's going to sit out the season. We're willing to do this. We're willing to do that. And he wants out no matter what. When you listen to DeShaun Watson talk, that's not how DeShaun Watson talks about anything, right? So the question is DeShaun Watson going to be willing to throw his team under the bus, make it impossible for them to keep him? He's doing a pretty good job so far, because at the very least, he's allowing David Mulugeta, his agent, to put that message out there. Okay. So he is going along with it for now. It becomes hard because your teammates start to call you and go, yo, dude, you got to stay, man. We need you. You got to be here. You know, you get those phone calls, you get barraged by your teammates. You're like, man, you got to be there. And, you know, even with Andre Johnson's support, Andre is not a teammate, and he's not one of those guys that, you know, DeShaun has gone to war with. And those guys start to call, and that can be convincing. The one biggest problem that Houston has is, who's the guy in that organization that you look to who's going to play peacemaker with DeShaun Watson and say,
the front office is a disaster.
Right. It's like Jack Easterby. It can't be him. He's a clown. He should be fired. Like he should be gone. Like, I can find another pastor. I can't find another quarterback that easily, right? I can get a team chaplain. I swear I can. Really, somewhere. But, you know, is it going to be Caserio, who Watson has no relationship? Is it going to be Cal McNair, the owner, who it should be, who's already broken his word to DeShaun Watson about how they were going to handle the search process, right? So Cal's now, who's a very nice guy. Cal's a very, very nice guy, but he's not one of those guys who you look at and go, man, that's the leader. That's the owner. That's the guy who's going to get it done. He doesn't have that kind of personality. And I'll tell you this, I know David Culley very well. He's a very nice man. But I saw David Culley get run over by DeShaun Jackson, basically, in a practice when DeShaun Jackson was a rookie. And David Culley was running roughshod over him until Andy Reid walked over. And, you know, then DeShaun Jackson kind of stood up and took notice. Like, I don't see anybody with the magnetic, powerful personality to fix this problem.
So are we looking at the fact that we've already agreed here that the issue in Houston is not DeShaun Watson? It is, of course, the ownership and the management. Is it possible then to say that the Houston Texans have now taken the mantle of the biggest NFL dumpster fire away from the New York Jets?
Oh, yeah, by far. It's not even
saying
close.
Something.
Right. I mean, again, how did you allow a guy who is a team chaplain to take over your football operations? Like that's where you sit there and go, there's something here that does not compute. It never should compute. It does not make sense. He has no playing background. He has no scouting background. You know, he's a team chaplain. And I have no problem with a team chaplain. This is not a religious
folks.
issue.
This is about football,
right.
which is a
it's not about, this is about who is supposed to handle the personnel. A person trained in personnel. He's trained in the Bible. Go be good at the Bible, please. Go be good at that. Don't come over here and tell us how to do personnel.
Yeah, I don't tell anybody how to raise someone from the dead. So don't tell me then how to play quarterback. It kind of goes like that. Real quick then, and here we go. Last shot before we get out of here. Quarterback one more time. The deal that's gone on. Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. Everybody's still talking about it. Then Russell, I come to you first. In this deal, who got the best? Who got the worst? And why?
Well, it's obviously there's a loss of faith in Jared Goff, who has been kind of, for lack of a better word, almost a turnover machine for 2.5 years. Sean McVay got a hold of him in 2017. He had a terrific year, and things started to come apart late in 2018. I know they made the Super Bowl, but it was more on the strength of other things and so on. Not having Todd Gurley be Todd Gurley, I think, hurt as well, but just so mistake prone in 2019 and 2020. That horrific game against the Dolphins, maybe even a more horrific game at home against the 49ers. They got swept by the Niners this year. And, it's still surprising. It's almost impossible to say who got the best, because who knows what the draft choices are going to turn into and so on. And that's really the key. But I think this was more a case of moving on than picking up Matthew Stafford.
It's kind of like getting rid of
I'll
people
go
who
with
what one didn't like. They just don't get along with management. The play. I mean, it's obvious what's going on with Goff right now. Sam Farmer in the LA Times wrote a great article about Goff and what he felt was happening there. Jason, it's two franchises that simply, I think, felt at this point, we got to get something, just a change of scenery.
look, I think there's only one clear winner as of today in this, and that's Brad Holmes, the GM of the Detroit Lions, who got 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick, essentially, and a possible reclamation project at quarterback for a guy that he had to trade. Like, who he always agreed that,
Good point.
Like, he had very little leverage in this one, right? And he gets 2 firsts, a third, and Jared Goff, who's got talent. Like, if you were to do a 7-on-7 throwing contest with Jared Goff, he'd be as good as almost anybody in the league in terms of accuracy, pinpointing a ball. He's got that kind of talent. Now, his head's wrong, and he hesitates too much when he's going through plays. We all have seen that, right? Like, he's the guy who, he's great until the ball is snapped and then things get disrupted and he's taking half a beat too long to think about where the ball is supposed to go, right? Like, that's his problem, and that's hard to fix. But Brad Holmes is the only winner because, look, I'm not a Matt Stafford guy. Like, I think I see the talent, but you talk about mistake prone. Like, he throws 10 interceptions a year like clockwork, and a lot of them are in big games in critical situations. And I know people were saying, "Oh, you can't blame him for Detroit." Look, he had Calvin Johnson for a long time. He had some good players. Pettigrew was a decent tight end. Abram was a decent tight end. He's had talent around him. Was it a well-managed team? No. But while he wasn't necessarily to blame for everything that went wrong in Detroit, he also wasn't the solution to what happened in Detroit. And so, like, why is he all of a sudden going to be the solution in Los Angeles? and so I really don't get that. And the final part of this is Sean McVay just really pushed every last poker chip that he possibly could into the middle of the table and said, I'm in for everything on my career here, because he's the guy who approved, and he's not the general manager, don't get me wrong, but he said, let's sign Jared Goff to that monster contract, right? Now, 2 years later, he's saying, oh, no, I'm sorry, I back off, my bad. We got to go get a better quarterback. And that better quarterback who we're giving up 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick and Jared Goff to get, by the way, is 7 years older than Jared Goff and has never won anything, right? Nothing. Matt Stafford has no pelts on any wall anywhere, okay, in his career. But suddenly, this is the guy you're giving up all of this for? If I'm Stan Kroenke, I'm looking at Sean McVay and I go, you better win. This better pay off. And your time in which to win is very short, because Aaron Donald is getting close to 30 if he's not 30 already.
Yeah,
Jalen Ramsey, we paid a lot for. So I think there's a lot of pressure on Sean McVay, and to a lesser extent on Les Snead, the general manager, but an awful lot on Sean McVay. Now, he's going to have a fine career. Somebody else will hire Sean McVay, but his time in Los Angeles could be short if this doesn't work.
Gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure. We managed to get everything in here. We did not ask any foolish questions. We know who everybody's spirit animal is. I'm feeling a whole lot better. So, the one thing is, as I told somebody, I'm not missing Radio Row this year, to be very honest, because it's become a cluster nut anymore to go to these things. And as far as press day and media day, I'm past it. It's been there. Had 26 of them under my belt. I think that's pretty much going to be it. So I'm happy at this point without having to do it. Let's remind everybody where to get a hold of my guests here, because this is fascinating. I love you guys know so much. I have so much fun doing this. Reminder: Jason Cole on his Facebook. It's jason.cole.9026, or just look for. Why didn't you go for 90210? It would have been perfect.
And since I'm from Los Angeles, I should have.
There you go. You got the Stanford roots. Also on Twitter, it's @JasonCole62. I also want to remind everybody again that go to Amazon. His book, Elway, A Relentless Life, is selling like hotcakes. They're throwing them out of Amazon right now. Put one on your shelf right now. Brilliant book. And learn more about the guy who is indeed one of the GOATs. Russell Baxter. My God, as I said, Russell is everywhere. He's everywhere. Go to profootballguru.com. That's where you can read his stuff on a regular basis. And also, I want to point out, let's see. Oh, yeah, there's all that other good stuff. Facebook is russell.s.baxter and Twitter at BaxFootballGuru to get him there. Did I miss anything?
No, I feel left out. I don't have a number. Should I tack on? Jason's got his number there. Should I tack on 867-5309 or?
Jenny, who can you turn to?
Who can you turn to? Thank you very much, Tommy Two-Tone. And that'll be it right there for those of us who remember. Hey, gentlemen, thanks so much. You guys are great. I love it. You're wonderful friends, and you know more about football than anybody I know. So it's great to have you on the show. Enjoy the game, and everybody please be healthy. We'll talk to you again real soon.
You got it.
All right, guys, take care. Russell Baxter and Jason Cole, these are the... Hey, look, I keep telling you people this. It's real easy, because if you want to find out where to get the football, go to the guys who actually know the football. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, all the rest of the places. You know where to find us. Find me as well. Stay here. Don't forget Ed Berliner Live on YouTube and The Man in the Arena. You can check us all out at welcometothearena.com. All the shows are there on a regular basis. Also, don't forget, go to your favorite podcast, look for Ed Berliner, or also look for The Man in the Arena. You can find us there as well. Thanks to Russell. Thanks to Jason. Thank you. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. Until next time, I'm Ed Berliner. Rock on, true believers. See ya.
You're still here?
Are you not entertained?
It's over.
All right, hey. All right, good job, guys. Let's just not come in tomorrow. Let's just take a day.
Go home.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Go.
That's all, folks.